Alright, so it is the final Thursday of this month in November, and this will be my final performance of the 3 pieces that I worked on. And this is to complete the challenge of learning 3 different pieces in 3 different ways. So first I want to talk about the pros and cons, what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So the first piece was Remor da Copla, and this was the piece that I wanted to learn in sections, where specifically I didn't want to move on to a new section until I had mastered that first section. And learning the piece this way, I feel like a lot of people try to approach music this way, and I feel like for me, honestly, it was kind of hard because I really got tired of only working on one section until I mastered it, and I felt like I so badly wanted to move on and just try something new, get onto a new section. I kind of got annoyed with almost having to practice the same thing over and over. And I think in our minds we think that that's the best way to learn, is don't move on until you've mastered this one section, until you get it right. But I almost feel like it's not as good of an approach. There's something called interleaving, which I know a little bit about. It's how you learn something, and instead of studying something a bunch until you know you have it, it's you study it a little bit and then you move on to the next thing, and then you move on to the next thing, and somehow unconsciously your brain kind of processes things differently. It's actually a better way to learn that way than trying to just learn it kind of step by step, or not moving on until you have mastered the one section. So I would say one of the cons of learning Remor da Copla in the way that I decided to learn it was that it was just kind of I felt like it went slower in that way, because I wanted to move on and I was kind of stuck practicing the same thing over and over, which I think I would have benefited by taking a break from that and then coming back to it after I had practiced something else. But I will say, in comparison to Manzanares del Real, I feel like those pieces both kind of came out the same way. Now with Manzanares del Real, I decided to just kind of go through the whole piece almost every time I learned it. And at the same time, it was if there were sections that need to be worked on, I would work on them for a little bit and then I would move on. And I feel like that was more efficient. It was definitely more interesting, more stimulating for me mentally to learn a piece like that. However, I think the results for both of those pieces almost ended up being the same for me. I feel like I can play them pretty decent for only having worked on them 15 minutes a day for about 6 days a week. If I had put in an hour of each of those pieces for the whole month, these pieces would probably be a lot better. But the challenge was to try to do it in a short amount of time and get it to the highest quality possible. And then finally, with Tiragano, this piece, I feel like practicing it mentally and then practicing it physically, I feel like it works pretty well. The only problem is trying to do that with only 15 minutes. I almost ended up mentally practicing the piece for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then by the time I would play it, I'd only have about 5 minutes left, and I would kind of just find myself kind of running it through once, and then that was pretty much it. Running it through slowly once, and that was it. So I felt like with that one I needed more time, but I feel like mentally I understand the piece, and I think mentally I have it pretty much memorized. But I think what's lacking is the amount of muscle memory that my hand still kind of needs to develop the piece. But I still thought it was a pretty efficient way of learning it, because mentally I pretty much know what to do. It's just now kind of trying to work in the muscle memory a little better. So that is the pros and cons learning these pieces in those ways that I did. I think it was a very beneficial experiment, and I think what I'll take away from this is kind of taking bits and pieces of the way I decided to learn each one of these pieces, and I think combining all 3 of those ways into learning a single piece is probably one of the best and most efficient ways that you can do it. So now I'm going to give you my final performance of these pieces. Alright, that is it. So this concludes the challenge. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.